as a country, we are like if a MySpace pop-up ad decided to form a civilization. That's what we are. And I say MySpace because the pop-up ads were even shittier back then.
Although I did meet my husband on MySpace, so that's one good thing.
But not via a pop-up ad.
Well, no, I'm just kidding.
An ad popped up and there was a shirtless guy. No, I've met people on MySpace before. I mean, I met an ex-girlfriend on MySpace before. It was, I mean, I think we've talked about this off mic. It was, in my opinion, the best social media platform. We didn't know what we had till it was gone. MySpace was great. And, you know, I feel bad for the kids who missed that wave. Because MySpace, I mean, especially for an artist, like if you were a musician or a comedian or whatever, you could have your tour dates, you could have audio, you could have video, you had a messaging tool, and you could search people via zip code.
Yep.
So you knew, yeah, you could tell people, hey, you're into this kind of music. I'm in this band. We're playing blah, blah, blah. And that was before it became a spam circus, because eventually it did, because it got sold and then it just became like a giant commercial. Yeah. So it was actually like you were intrigued to get stuff like that, where you're like, oh, this band's coming. I might like them. I'm going to listen to them. You could just check out their MySpace page and listen to them. If you liked what you heard, you'd show up to the show. And I mean, people built careers out of that. I mean, bands that are still famous to this day, My Chemical Romance, they would, which personally, I'm not a huge fan of their music. It's not really my cup of tea, but they, you know, there was that famous story where they would practice for 4 hours. You know, their band, they dedicated their lives to their band. They would practice for about 3 to 4 hours, and then they would all sit at laptops, put on some music, and they would spend 4 hours adding people on their MySpace and messaging people and marketing their shit. And you could do that. I mean, hey, in the comedy world, that MySpace made Dane Cook.
Yeah.
So I miss it.
And no character limits.
Right? And that you had a blog too. You had a blog on MySpace. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
Were you a note gal? Did you do the MySpace notes?
I did. I was in college, so I was an English major, so I would post a lot of my writing that was getting published on campus and stuff like that. And then, you know, and people would actually read it, because back then people had better attention spans.
Did you have a live journal?
Yes.
I never did a live journal. I don't know why. I mean, I had a blog. I had a Blogspot. Did you have a Blogspot?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I was just a Blogspot guy. I didn't do the live journal thing. I was just a blog spotter.
You're bringing back memories. I didn't even remember what they were called.
Do you remember Spiderweb? No, that was a thing. And then there was do you remember X Page? Do you remember those?
X Page.
That was like
dirty.
Like, right, it does, but it was like EX Page. And that was like the easiest way to build a website if you really didn't know anything. Like back before WordPress, back before Squarespace, back before Wix, back before any of that stuff, there was a thing called Xpage where you had to have their URL. It would be xpage.com/whatever. And you could have this very, very basic looking like web page that I don't know if any of that stuff is still online, but yeah, when I was 12, my little garage band, we had an X page where it was just a picture of us standing in front of our like one of our parents' fireplaces, like, and the drummer was holding his drumsticks, and then we didn't have any music because you couldn't upload an MP3 or anything like that, but you could be like, we're a band, and that was it.
That sounds amazing.
Oh man, I was so ashamed that we, because we were very young, so we didn't get booked hardly ever. So I was like so ashamed of that I would like make up venues that didn't really exist. And just, like basically, if we had practice in our like drummer's garage and we opened the garage, and a couple of our friends would like stop by and watch for a few minutes, which did happen. I would put that on our website as a show. Like I'd be like, well, we played a show. That was a show. And I would just make up like I forget what we named, but we had this venue that we named, and it was just my buddy's parents' garage. But it was, and this was before you could like Google Maps or anything like that. So it's not like people would be like, what the fuck is this place? And then find out it's not really a place. So I would just,
you guys were playing and like the only people in the house were your parents, then you can say sold out show.
Sold out show. I mean, yeah, we had our venue was like so hip. Not a lot of people knew about it because it was actually just a house. And, but I remember that. I was so embarrassed that like no one would book us because we were like so young and inexperienced and stuff. That I'd be like, oh, well, that was a show. We had a show today. I forget what we called the venue, but like, yeah, that was. You could probably still find that somewhere lurking around in the dark corners of the internet.
You need to find a picture because I want to see that.
I mean, I think at my parents' house I have a bunch of like developed pictures and stuff like that. My mom's been like going through just a bunch of random stuff in their basement and whatnot because they're empty nesters and blah blah blah. And the other day she came across one of my first band's patches. Remember like the patches you could get? I mean, they still sell that stuff, but like we had patches. And then she came across a cassette of our music, and I asked her not to throw that away. She would like send me pictures, and she'd be like, yeah, do you want? And a lot of times I'd be like, yeah, throw that shit away. That's like a textbook from college. I don't know how that still is around anywhere, but yeah, you can donate that or whatever. Maybe someone could use it. But yeah, when she came across my band's old cassette tape, I was like, yeah, save that. I don't know how I'd be able to play it.
What your name was?
Oh, we were called Open Till 2. Like, that's what we were called. And it was because
when you're young, that's like, whoa, 2 a.m. Holy shit.
Actually, that did help us because that helped people remember us because once we like were just old enough that we could start playing, like we were like 14, 15. So it was like old enough that like you could put us on a show and it wasn't totally ridiculous. That helped people remember us because yeah, they're that really fucking young band that's named after Last Call at a Bar, which is hilarious because none of them are going to a fucking bar. They're like 12. Yeah. So that helped people remember us. They're like, yeah, Open Till 2. That really applies to you guys. But here's the funny part. We were called Open Till 2 because we used to skateboard in a Taco Bell parking lot near where we lived. We just lived in the suburbs. And we would skateboard in this Taco Bell parking lot. And whenever they would kick us out, which inevitably happened after like an hour, we would go have band practice. So, and the Taco Bell parking lot that we skateboarded in was open till 2 a.m. Well, the Taco Bell was open till 2 a.m. And there was a sign that said open till 2. So we were like skateboarding and we were like, what should we call our band? And we see this sign that says open till 2. And we were like, that's funny, I guess, maybe. And we called our band Open Till 2. At one point, because we thought it was really funny, we called ourselves Wrinkly Old Men because we thought it was funny that we were like 13 and we called our band Wrinkly Old Men. It was so stupid. It was so dumb. We were 12, whatever.
That's amazing.
But yeah, we were like, we're Wrinkly Old Men. Like I remember one time we had like I remember we told like our friend's older brother, like, he's like, what's your dumb little band called? And we were like, Wrinkly Old Men. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like, think of a name. Like, are you kidding? Don't call yourselves that, or just don't do this anymore. Yeah, right. That was a close second. That was like I forget what else but yeah, we settled on Open Till 2. And I mean, I don't know. It was like, I mean, I grew up in like a suburb where if you wanted to do something creative, people thought there was something wrong with you. I mean, it's just that kind of world. So we were like trying to like play punk rock music and stuff, and we're just lucky enough to even know what it was.
Yeah.
Which is funny because even like all these years later, when I came to Southern California, I kind of felt a little bit of a sense of victory where it's like, you know, I finally arrived. This is the land that created so much of the stuff that I loved as a kid. And it seemed like such a foreign thing. Like everything I loved was made in California. And it just seemed like such a foreign land where it's like, oh man, California. I mean, it was this mystique that even lasted through my 20s. I was like, California, you know, and it's shut down now, but but the weather's still great.
Yeah, well, I've never been to California, but before all this, you know, clusterfuck started, I hit you up and said I was going to do a book tour with Pat in California. Yeah. So hopefully when things, fingers crossed, get better, I'm still going to California and we're still going to do a book tour. So hopefully we can still do some shows with you guys and stuff like that, because I'm excited. I've never been.
Oh, you're gonna love it. And yeah, and I can't wait for that. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And I mean, people who watch this show, they hear me talk about it so much because it really, not being able to perform live, it's like a piece of yourself is just missing. It hurts. And so folks, hold on to that good news. The Save Our Stages bill passed. That is good. That does help. That means that some of the venues we all know and love will hopefully still be standing next year. So that's something.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your